In the cosmic expanse of the Andromeda Galaxy, a sense of unease infiltrated the star-studded darkness like a chilling fog. News of an indescribable horror, the Scourge, spread from one system to another. This entity, vast and relentless, devoured planets with an insatiable hunger, leaving nothing but lifeless husks floating in the abyss. The Confederation of Planets, a union of diverse species that had maintained peace across star systems for centuries, found itself facing a threat beyond comprehension. Emergency messages were transmitted through quantum channels, calls for aid that were as desperate as they were urgent. Ambassadors and leaders from countless worlds convened on the Citadel of Unity, a massive space station that served as the seat of the Confederation's council. The Great Hall, usually a place of debate and decision-making, became a scene of chaos and fear. Species known for their stoicism now shook with dread. Warriors who had faced death without flinching now whispered anxiously. Every proposed solution seemed to disintegrate upon contact with the harsh reality of the Scourge's power. As the leaders grappled with impending doom, a murmur swept through the hall. A new delegation had arrived unannounced, causing a stir not because of their grandeur or might, but because of their obscurity. Humans from the distant and isolated Milky Way galaxy entered the chamber. Their appearance was unremarkable, their technology unimpressive compared to the advanced civilizations present. Yet there was a resolve in their eyes that caught the attention of the assembly. The human representative, Captain Elena Marquez, stepped forward. Her voice, clear and steady, cut through the cacophony of the panicked council. "We have received your calls across the stars," she began, "and we have come not with great weapons or armies, but with the promise of hope." Skepticism filled the room, but curiosity prevailed. What could this young species, barely a blip in the cosmic ledger of time, offer against such a relentless force as the Scourge? Captain Marquez didn't falter. "The Scourge feeds on fear and division," she declared. "We may not have faced this foe before, but we have fought against the darkness that thrives in the void of hopelessness. We stand united, a testament to what can be achieved when disparate voices join as one. Let us show you the strength of our unity." Her words, imbued with a strange and compelling conviction, stirred something within the council. Perhaps it was her unwavering gaze, or perhaps it was the dire need for any sliver of hope. But a silent agreement formed among the leaders. The Confederation had assembled the mightiest fleets, the most powerful weapons, and the wisest minds to counter the Scourge. Yet all had been found wanting. Now, in this unexpected hour, it was this new, almost primitive ally, humanity, that ignited the first spark of true resistance. As the gathering storm of the Scourge loomed ever closer, casting a shadow over countless worlds, it was decided. The fleets of the Confederation would unite with the human armada, embarking on a joint mission that would determine the fate of galaxies. In this crucible of impending doom, an alliance was forged, one that would either save them all or doom them to a cold and unforgiving end. The news of the alliance with humanity rippled through the Confederation, met with a mix of hope and incredulity. How could a species so new to the galactic stage offer any assistance against the Scourge, a force that had extinguished civilizations far older and wiser than mankind? Meanwhile, on Earth, the call to arms was sounded. It was not a declaration of war, but a plea for defenders of the human spirit and protectors of life. The planet's governments, once divided by petty conflicts and borders, now stood united in the face of a universal threat. Humanity's response was swift and resolute. Volunteers from every nation, experts in fields from astrophysics to combat, stepped forward. The heart of this earthly coalition was the Orion Initiative, a fleet of ships equipped with the best technology humanity could muster. Though their vessels were primitive compared to the advanced craft of the Confederation, what they lacked in firepower, they made up for in versatility and ingenuity. The humans had developed unconventional weapons and shielding systems, not yet seen by the eyes of the Confederation. Captain Elena Marquez, now appointed as the commander of the Orion Initiative, oversaw the final preparations. The fleet was a mosaic of humanity's resolve, a collection of ships each bearing the emblem of Earth, a globe encircled by olive branches, It was a symbol that resonated across the diverse crews. Despite the unknown, they carried with them the hope for peace. As the fleet departed, the people of Earth looked to the skies with a mix of pride and trepidation. Millions gathered, their eyes tracking the light of the ships ascending into the heavens, becoming stars that moved against the backdrop of constellations. Prayers and goodbyes were whispered, not knowing if this would be the final farewell. The journey to the Andromeda Galaxy was long and fraught with uncertainty. The human ships slipped through the fabric of space-time using jump drives, a technology still in its infancy. Each jump was a gamble, but the skill of the initiative's pilots was unparalleled, navigating the treacherous currents of the cosmos with a tenacious grace. Upon their arrival, the humans were greeted with a scene of devastation. The aftermath of the Scourge's destruction lay before them. Planets cracked open like eggs, stars dimmed by the consumption of their energy, and remnants of once mighty fleets adrift in the silence of space. The Confederation's leaders, witnessing the determination of the humans, felt a surge of renewed vigor. Perhaps with these new allies there was a chance to push back the darkness. A massive assembly of ships from 1,000 worlds gathered, forming a patchwork of civilizations standing side by side. The humans' arrival had ignited a spark of unity that the Confederation hadn't felt in centuries. At the forefront, Captain Marquez's flagship, the UHS Resilience, took its position. She broadcast a message to the Allied fleet, her words echoing in the void. Today, we are not separate peoples. We are one force, bound by the desire to protect our homes and our futures. Let the Scourge face not just a fleet, but the combined will of all life that cherishes the light. With a collective roar of engines and the surge of energy weapons charging, the Allied fleet, a massive conglomerate of ships from across the galaxy, faced the Scourge with a tense and wary determination. The entity had already devoured the light of stars and the life of worlds, and now it turned its insatiable hunger towards the united forces gathered before it. The air within the ships was thick with the electricity of anticipation, each vessel silently awaiting the command to engage. Humanity's arrival had been the catalyst for this grand assembly, their presence an ember of hope in the cold expanse of space. Commander Elena Marquez, now recognized as the de facto leader of the combined fleet, understood the gravity of her position. She had studied the engagements with the Scourge, learned from the losses, and devised a plan that hinged not on the might of arms, but on the audacity of human courage and creativity. Her strategy was unorthodox, a series of feints, erratic maneuvers, and unpredictable tactics designed to confuse and scatter the Scourge's attention. The humans had a term for it, guerrilla warfare, a concept unfamiliar to many of the alien races in the Confederation. Their battles were typically fought in formation, with honor and precision. Humanity, however, had learned the hard way that sometimes survival required breaking the rules of conventional engagement. The Scourge advanced, a tide of darkness that seemed to absorb the very light around it. It sent forth tendrils, black as void, to lash at the fleet. The Allied ships held their positions, waiting for the signal. Commander Marquez's voice, calm and steady, resonated across the comm channels. Hold, now, scatter pattern Delta. Like a burst of cosmic fireworks, the fleet exploded into motion. Human pilots executed erratic spirals and sharp jukes that baffled the Scourge's senses. The aliens, too, took inspiration from this chaos, their own maneuvers becoming more sporadic and less predictable. The Scourge's tendrils missed their marks, striking empty space where ships had been moments before. A Solarian captain, whose species was known for their rigid discipline, couldn't help but express his admiration. "These humans are insane," he muttered, his voice a mix of disbelief and respect. "Insanely brilliant." As the Scourge reeled from the confusion, the second phase of Marquez's plan came into play. Small fighter ships, manned by the bravest of pilots, darted towards the entity. They carried with them payloads not of destruction, but of data, a stream of information containing art, music, literature, the very essence of the civilizations that refused to be extinguished. The Scourge had consumed countless worlds, but it had never encountered such a direct assault of culture and emotion. The onslaught was disorienting, The entity paused, its advance slowing as it processed this unexpected facet of its prey. It was a being of consumption, not comprehension. The human spark, the fire of creativity and soul, was alien to it. With the scourge momentarily stalled, the combined fleet unleashed a barrage of energy fire. Each blast was synchronized with the rhythm of human music, a beat that resonated through the hulls of the ships and the hearts of their crews. The scourge writhed under the assault, its form flickering like a shadow in the glare of a supernova. In the aftermath of the stunning offensive led by humanity, the once dispirited alliance found itself emboldened. The scourge, though still a formidable force, showed signs of disarray under the relentless barrage of human-inspired warfare. A hushed optimism began to spread among the ranks of the Allied forces, and the once dominant air of despair started to dissipate like mist at sunrise. Commander Elena Marquez, aboard the UHS Resilience, was far from complacent. Her mind raced, analyzing data streams, coordinating with her counterparts, and planning their next move. The scourge was recoiling, yes, but it was far from defeated. It was a behemoth of darkness and malice, and it would take more than a surprise to vanquish it. The next phase of Marquez's strategy was clear: strike at the core of the scourge. Intelligence gathered from countless skirmishes suggested that the scourge possessed a central nexus, a core that coordinated its malevolent intent. If they could destroy or disable this nexus, they could incapacitate the entire entity. The plan, named Operation Nova's Heart, would require a task force composed of the most skilled pilots, warriors, and engineers from across the Alliance. This task force would be led by a human team who would pilot a specially designed ship capable of penetrating the Scourge's defenses. A ship that was the culmination of human and alien technology. The vessel, christened the UHS Dawnbreaker, was unlike any other in the fleet. It bore weapons that could disrupt the Scourge's energy matrix and shielding systems that shimmered with a kaleidoscope of protective fields. But its most crucial component was the payload it carried, a quantum singularity device that, when activated, could collapse the Scourge's nexus into a point of non-existence. Volunteers for the mission were not in short supply, but Marquez chose with a discerning eye. The crew was a microcosm of the Alliance itself, beings of various forms and philosophies, each contributing their unique strengths to the mission. Together they embarked on the UHS Dawnbreaker, knowing full well the odds they faced. The task force launched under the cover of a diversionary assault, the main fleet drawing the Scourge's attention with a cacophony of firepower and feints. As the entity thrashed against this renewed onslaught, the Dawnbreaker slipped through its defenses, a silent arrow aimed at the heart of darkness. Navigating the twisted landscape of the Scourge's domain was a task that tested the limits of the crew's skills and sanity. The very fabric of reality seemed corrupted by the entity's presence, with stars, planets, and nebulae twisted into grotesque parodies of their natural forms. As they reached the core, the entity became aware of the threat. It lashed out with a fury that was both mindless and calculated, tendrils of dark energy seeking to snuff out the Dawnbreaker and its crew. But the ship pressed on, propelled by the collective determination of its crew and the Alliance behind them. In a final, desperate gambit, the Dawnbreaker reached the nexus. With the Scourge closing in, the crew activated the quantum singularity device. A pulse of light erupted, followed by a silence that filled the void. The core imploded, and a wave of tranquility. The collapse of the Scourge's nexus sent shockwaves throughout its domain. The once indomitable force that had stretched across the cosmos like a shroud was now a writhing mass of confusion and chaos. The darkness that had consumed worlds was receding, unveiling the stars it had obscured. Aboard the UHS Dawnbreaker, the task force witnessed the unraveling of a nightmare. The singularity device had worked, but their mission was far from over. The ship, now deep within the Scourge's territory, had to return to the Allied fleet. Its journey back was through a landscape of havoc, past the remnants of worlds and echoes of lost civilizations. The crew, an assembly of beings drawn from the farthest reaches of the galaxy, bonded by a common cause, felt an overwhelming mix of triumph and sorrow. The victory was palpable, but the cost lay bare before them. Entire planets hollowed out, their essences consumed by the scourge. It was a stark reminder of what had been at stake. Commander Elena Marquez steered the ship through the detritus of the scourge's undoing. Her eyes were steadfast, but her heart mourned the countless lives lost. "Let's bring Dawnbreaker home," she commanded. "Let this be the last journey through darkness for us all." The ship's return was not unchallenged. Remnants of the scourge, like dying embers of a vast fire, lashed out in their death throes. Each attack was met with the resolve of the crew and the ingenuity of human engineering. The Dawnbreaker maneuvered with an agility that belied its patchwork construction, a testament to the combined efforts of its diverse creators. The true test of their resolve came when they encountered a planet enveloped by the scourge, yet not entirely consumed. Desperate signals beeped from the surface. There were survivors. The decision to mount a rescue was immediate. The mission had always been about more than victory. It was about saving lives, about proving that the light of civilization would not bow to the darkness. The Dawnbreaker descended, its shields flaring against the residual effects of the scourge's presence. Teams of rescuers, human and alien alike, deployed to the surface, working together to recover the stranded and the wounded. They found beings who had believed themselves forgotten, their eyes wide with wonder as they beheld their saviors, united in their diversity. As the rescue operations continued, the crew of the Dawnbreaker kept vigilant watch. The scourge's remnants clawed at the planet, intent on claiming what it believed was already its. But the will of the rescuers was indomitable, and not a single life that could be saved was left behind. With the survivors aboard, the Dawnbreaker broke orbit, setting a course for the rallying point of the Allied fleet. The return journey was a silent procession, a time of reflection for the crew and their rescued charges. They had ventured into the heart of darkness and emerged not only victorious, but also as the bearers of new hope. As the Dawnbreaker rejoined the Allied fleet, it was greeted with cheers and solemn nods of respect. The sacrifice of those who had fallen was honored, and the resilience of those who had survived was celebrated. The Alliance, once on the brink of despair, now looked upon the humans and their companions with reverence. The tide had been turned, the darkness, the retreat of the scourge, had left the galaxy in a fragile state of cautious elation. The Allied fleet, buoyed by the successful mission of the UHS Dawnbreaker, began the arduous task of reclaiming the ravaged star systems. Yet there remained pockets of resistance where the scourge's influence persisted, tenacious and malignant. Commander Elena Marquez, her name now etched in the annals of galactic history, faced the challenge of rallying the Alliance for one final push. It was no longer a battle against a vast, consuming entity, but a series of strategic operations to eradicate the last vestiges of the scourge's presence. The Allied forces, once disparate fleets fighting for their own survival, now operated with a singular purpose, their movements orchestrated by the strategic acumen of the human command. Marquez knew that this final stand required not just military might, but a deeper unity, a symphony of diverse powers, technologies, and beings acting as one. Humanity's role in this intricate ballet of destruction and rebirth was as innovators and unifiers. They brokered alliances between species with old grievances, inspired joint operations that leveraged the unique strengths of each civilization, and introduced tactics that turned the tide in countless skirmishes. The humans had brought more to the alliance than just their military strategies. They had introduced the concept of resilience as a form of warfare. They showed their allies how to rebuild amid conflict, to use the remnants of the scourge's destruction as foundations for new strongholds, and to weave the fabric of community and solidarity, even in the heart of battle. Each operation was a step toward the future they all yearned for, a galaxy not just free of the scourge, but stronger for having survived it. The humans had a term for this: Phoenix tactics, rising anew from the ashes of what was lost. And rise they did, with each reclaimed world serving as a beacon of their indomitable spirit. The final stand took place in the shadow of a dying star, one that the scourge had sought to consume entirely. The remnants of the entity coiled around it like a shroud, a barrier to any who dared approach. The Allied fleet, led by the Dawnbreaker, approached with a quiet, steely determination. The battle was harrowing. The darkness thrashed and tore at the fabric of space, hurling void-touched asteroids and corrupting rays of light that twisted reality. Yet for every attack, the Alliance had a response, their actions so harmoniously synchronized that they seemed to be guided by a single, shared consciousness. At the forefront, the Dawnbreaker pierced the veil of darkness, its singularity device once again ready to deliver a crippling blow. But this time, it was not alone. Ships from 1,000 worlds flanked it, their energy signatures merging into a chorus of defiance. When the device was activated, the effect was not just the collapse of the Scourge's remnants, but a ripple that cleansed the corruption, leaving the star to shine once again, pure and bright. The final stand had been more than a battle. It had been the forging of a new galaxy, one united not just by necessity, but by a shared desire for peace and prosperity. The Scourge had been defeated, and in its place stood an alliance of worlds, ready to face whatever new challenge. The aftermath of the final stand was not simply a silence that follows a storm, but a resonant hum that filled the galaxy with a sense of profound change. The Scourge had been defeated, its darkness vanquished, and the once menacing shadow that had hung over the galaxy was now just a receding memory. The star that had been the battlefield's focal point shone like a beacon, its light a testament to the victory of the Alliance. The Dawnbreaker returned to the Citadel of Unity with the fleet, its arrival marking the end of the conflict. The celebrations were universal, reverberating through the halls of the Citadel and across planets in every system. Statues and monuments were erected in honor of the fallen, and the tales of bravery and sacrifice became the new legends that would be told for generations. Commander Elena Marquez stood before the Confederation once more, not as a harbinger of hope in a desperate hour, but as the architect of their salvation. Beside her stood representatives of every race that had fought in the Alliance, a visual representation of unity that would have been unimaginable before the Scourge. Their unity had been born out of necessity, but it had grown into something far stronger. The Confederation was reborn as the unified Galactic Alliance, with the principles of cooperation, peace, and mutual defense at its core. Humanity was given a seat of high honor within the new council, their role in the victory recognized and celebrated. But more than that, humans became the mediators and peacekeepers in the aftermath, their experience with conflict and reconciliation proving invaluable. The UHS Dawnbreaker, the ship that had led the charge against the darkness, embarked on a new mission: to traverse the galaxy and foster the reconstruction efforts on worlds that had been touched by the Scourge. Its crew, a microcosm of the Alliance itself, worked alongside countless species to rebuild what had been lost and to create new structures and systems that reflected the unity they now shared. Technology and knowledge were freely exchanged among the Alliance's members, with humans playing a key role in the distribution of resources. The spirit of innovation that had been crucial in the fight against the Scourge now drove the renaissance that swept across the galaxy. New schools of thought, art, and philosophy emerged, many inspired by human culture and the resilience it embodied. As years passed, the memory of the Scourge began to fade, becoming akin to a bad dream that had once plagued the galaxy. In its place, a new dream took shape, a dream of a unified cosmos, where the lessons of the past informed the foundations of the future. Commander Marquez, now known as the Grand Unifier, addressed the assembly at the Citadel one last time before retiring her commission. Her words resonated not just within the chamber, but across the known universe, carried on waves of broadcast that reached every corner of space. "Let this be our legacy," she said, her voice carrying the weight of what they had all experienced. "From the darkest of times, we found light. From division, we found unity. And from the brink of annihilation, we have built a future where all may thrive. Remember this, not as the end of our trials, but the beginning of our journey."